Hello everyone, I'm Yu, and today I want to talk about the relationship between the agricultural water and the food production in Australia. On a global scale, we are experiencing increasingly water scarcity. With climate change and global warming, freshwater resources will become more and more precious. Water will be transformed into different things around us, and we need to do more than develop some new technologies to get fresh water from nature, and we also need to reduce the waste of resources as much as possible. And it is not enough to know that we are facing a water shortage. We need to get more people to understand and act on it. The agricultural water is a large part of the total water consumption, and waste food is also a waste of water resources to a certain extent. I hope to tell people the relationship between agricultural water and food production through this NGV exhibition. At the beginning of my research, I looked at the agricultural water withdrawal in a global scale to see what is the position of Australia using the water for agricultural goal, and we can see from this graph Australia is actually using the water for agriculture about 10 billion still, and it is above the world average level. And then I looked into the total water consumption in Australia. The water consumption trend is growing fast during 2012 to 2014, but it started to decrease since 2014. It is not because people started to save water, but because of the drought situation. And after 2016, the trend is increasing again. Then I started to research the water abstraction from different categories. We can see from this graph that the agriculture is always playing the biggest part of the water abstraction. After understanding the distribution of water abstraction, I began to look for more information about food production in Australia and trying to link them with the water usage. Then I got my raw data for my further research. The first raw data table is the percentage of annual agricultural freshwater withdrawal from total freshwater withdrawal. And the second table is total water available for irrigation. The third and fourth table are about the food production in Australia. After collecting all the raw data, I started to do the data parsing. This is the table shows the percentage of annual agriculture freshwater withdrawal from total freshwater resources, and Australia is reached about 58% in this graph, and it's above most of the country in the world. And then I made a comparison on Australian water distribution depends on different years. And these four graphs looks very similar. In order to make it more obvious, I made another graph based on the same set of raw data, and we can learn from this graph that water is always distributed in similar trends, and it might have slightly changes, but the overall trend looks very similar. And the water used for agriculture is much more than used in other purposes. These three graphs is about the food production in Australia from 2007 to 2013. It shows the quantity of the food produced in that period of time. Each column is represent a different kind of food, and a different color means different years. And we can see that in each column the changes are very small. And I analyzed the water requirements for food production. Different color means different food, and the bigger the circle is, the more water it requires. And then I did another table for the water requirement for food production. All of these small rectangles means 1 unit of that kind of food, and the color and size means the quantity of water required to produce the 1 unit of that food. Through data analyze and construct, although total water consumption of Australia changes every year, the purpose of using water is not changing much. Agriculture always maintained a large part of water consumption, and the food produced in Australia is also relatively stable. Perhaps it is because of people's life and eating habits tends to be stable, and the amount of water needed for different food has a huge difference. Meat and nuts require far more water than fruits and vegetables. Then the question comes to how to visualize the relationship between the agricultural water and the food production in Australia. My intention is to use NGV exhibition to communicate with young generations and help them to know the importance of water and prevent the food waste. I want to introduce the Australian agricultural water consumption to people who came to NGV and let them know how the Australian water is distributed into different categories and how our daily food is produced by those water. And this is my audio files. Austin is an 8 years old boy, and with his dad, Michael, 38 years old, work at his own family farm, and they live in the farm with their whole family. And the third audience is Becky. She's 18 years old, and this is her first year to Melbourne, and she's an international student from China. The concept 1, the water postcard. Before the installation, people will get a blank postcard. It represents the amount of total water used for agricultural goal, and people can collect different stamps which represent different food, and each stamp has its own color and size, which shows the amount of water used to produce that kind of food. And then people can use those stamps to fill up their postcard and form their own styled artwork. The concept 2 is water calculator. This concept is to provide a water calculator in the whole of NGV. People can take different food to eat, and then a screen will show them that the quantity of water used to produce that particular food they just picked to eat. After people complete their order, the screen will tell them how much water is consumed to produce this meal. The concept 3, water tour guide, using the water as a tour guide, lead the audience through different areas in NGV. In different areas, there will be a different set of devices to make the water convey the information and tell the stories to the audience. Finally, water will guide audience to the dining area. Dining area will provide a buffet service. Ingredients. There will be a container which stores different volume of water. The water in the container represent the water used to produce ingredients.